One of my social media friend called me up and said, Vijay, you talk too much about values and the importance of values in the life of child. When we were children, these values were not taught to us as a subject, but we are doing fine. Why are you doing this? And what is the importance now? Namaskar everyone, they call me Vijay Sridhara and I am here with one more episode. Most sensible humans have fragrant personality. This is the title of it. And to respond to the query of the lady, I asked her, did you live in a combined family or in a nuclear family when you were a child or a kid? She said they used to live in combined family, though one of their grandparents expired. I said, fine. Now, were you exposed to so much of information through media, through internet, TV, through magazines, etc.? She said, no, they were not exposed to so much of information. Whatever information they got from their parents or in the news in the evening or from a TV, a little bit when they watched was the only information they carried. But even to look at a magazine, they had to take a permission from their parents. So that was the kind of discipline they were in. And I further inquired if they were free to move around, do anything they liked. She said no, they were not free to move around. In fact, there were times to go out and times by which they have to come back home. There were places where to go, there were places where not to go. So these were strict rules they had to adhere to when they were kids. So I said, inevitably, because of the discipline your parents have imposed or you were in at that point in time, values were unconsciously or involuntarily put into you. So you know what to do and what not to do, where to go and where not to go, how to treat people, how not to treat people. So these were not taught as lessons to you, but these were taught as life experiences in the part of discipline that was taught to you. But nowadays, look at the kids. They were given a lot of freedom and liberty just because parents are either busy or they are in some utopian thought of giving freedom brings a lot of great things out of them. So, which is bringing a lot of nonsense and nuisance into their lives, into the children's lives. We need to understand it very clearly. Suppose you give 10,000 rupees to your 10-year-old kid. He may buy some toys, he may buy some ice cream, or he may get robbed also. So all unnecessary things with the valuable 10,000 rupees. The same thing when you give it to your husband, he may spend it a little wisely than the kid. The same 10,000 rupees. So it is important when the immature brain meets, even the valuable thing, it may get distorted or it may be spent unwisely. So the same thing is going to happen with our children. If they are not properly grounded in the value system, they may get disturbed. They may get disturbed and get into depression or do all sort of nonsensical things, or they can also disturb others' lives, which is very, very important to understand. If I am strong, if I am not properly grounded in value system, if I am strong, I will disturb the society. If I am intelligent, I will make sure that others suffer without being caught. If I am weak, I will suffer myself and I will get into depression and suicide. So it is very important to inculcate values in our children so that they stay strong and whatever colors the society throws at them, they are untouched by it and still be peaceful or happy within themselves with what they have. So that is why values in today's world is very important. So when we think of values, it is not just values, the word alone. Let me divide it for you, segment it into five types: the moral values, the social values, the human values, the family values, and finally the personal values. Personal values do not mean all the values put together a person carries, but it is about the person's identity itself. So that comes in the last. The fundamental thing and the foremost important thing is the moral values. Moral values is a lot about being living with integrity. A person living with integrity has a lot of moral values. Now, moral values also mean that how do you transact with others without exploiting them. So, for selfish means if you do not exploit other person in whatever ways, then you're carrying moral values. It is about not exploiting others for selfish purposes and also living with integrity. Now, living with integrity demands a lot of discipline. It in itself demands truthfulness and honesty. So, truthfulness, honesty, part of integrity, and along with not exploiting others for selfish reasons, becomes the moral value system. The second one is the social values. Social values is how do you treat people in society? How do you treat women in society? How do you approach them or talk to them and transact with them? How do you approach people at a higher level? How do you approach people at a lower level than you are in? Officials, non officials, leaders, followers, business people, dignitaries. How do you talk to them? How do you transact with them? How do you treat with courtesy children, women, elders in the society? So, all of these things put together become social values. How do you transact with people in society so that they don't get offended and insulted and exploited, of course? So, all of these things put together become social values. The third thing is the human values. Human values is important because if we are suffering, we expect somebody to attend to us and help us out of suffering. The same thing everybody is expecting. So, how do we respond to suffering people, downtrodden people, irrespective of their financial status, irrespective of their social status, irrespective of their gender, caste, creed, religion? How are we going to respond? That shows our humanity. Those are our human values. So, human values are important when people are a little less fortunate than you and probably they are suffering, and how are you going to attend to them? So human values come into picture there. And then comes family values. Within your family, how are you going to treat your elders? How are you going to respect their words? And how are you going to treat your partners, your children, and your relationships? What kind of value you give to them? How do you treat them so that they don't get offended and your relationships are intact and they are working fine? It's a win-win situation for everybody within the family. So to make up to that, what are the things that you are supposed to do within your family are family values. And there is a certain system traditionally that has brought that has been there in India. If we follow that, then the families are intact. They don't break apart. And the last one, which is the least important one, is the personal values. It's not the entire system of values that the person is carrying, but the values that he carries for himself, his own growth. For example, self confidence, self respect, dignity, and honor he expects in the society or with people around. So these are the things. Now, these are not most important. Nowadays, the system has become inverted. Everybody is talking about self respect and self confidence. Nobody is talking about other value systems. The moral values and social values are the most important in society. People should talk about it. They are not. They are talking about self respect and self confidence from an individual perspective because audience are mostly individuals. So they are thinking about themselves, individuals. This is important for a person to grow up in the society, to have self confidence, to be dignified, to carry some honor. But all of these things will come automatically when he is grounded within the value system. For the first four of them, he is properly grounded and he carries some skills. If he carries some grace within himself, the personal values automatically fall into place. He doesn't have to work for them. All of the other things have to be worked towards. We have to practice these values, only then it becomes a part of our life. It takes so much of effort to practice them. So that is why I say these five types of values are needed in anybody's lives and exceptionally required for our children in these times. To remember these values in the order of their priority, I set the title of this episode as Most Sensible Humans Have Fragrant Personality. You can see MSHFP. So that is all there in this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes like this and more talks like this onto my podcast. Thank you so much for your time.